Alex Bitto on pole position, Freeware in second, Luktra in third, Yoda in fourth, Domi from, well, it appears he's got the Hungarian flag, if I'm not mistaken, in fifth there. Zamis in sixth, Henders in seventh, Ruben, South African, in eighth, and BTFU in ninth with Crampy in 10th. Now, of course, we'll go through the rest of this grid with you, but I have to say we are getting an, even more diverse racing grid here. We have people from all over the globe. I mean, if you were looking for an Australian in the race, don't worry. Sometimes he's sitting with me today. It's Mikhail, of course, the Australian. But the grid, Mikhail, what do you think about all of this diversity? It's been absolutely fantastic.
It's great to see, I just love the opportunity, for all these drivers all across the globe to race each other, from different cultures, different backgrounds. And it really just brings, everyone together, everyone's love for this amazing sport. It's great to see, and no one's sort of segregated by geographical location. But with 5 seconds left on the clock, I don't know how many sunshine and rainbows moments we're going to have during this race. Once I get in the cockpit of that car, it is all focused on the road and getting that car as high up the grid as possible.
Most definitely. And of course, we have that formation lap for you. We'll go down through the grid one more time. It is Bitto on pole position, Freeware in second, Luktra in third, Yoda in fourth with Domi in fifth. Zamis taking up his slot there in sixth with Henners behind him in seventh. Ruben in eighth, BTFU in ninth with Crampy. Rounding off the top 10 racers here for this one, Seb the Champ in 11th with Gadwin in 12th. Alpha 13th there, John in 14th with Adam in 15th. Fubar 16th here. Cotters in 17th. Moen in 18th. And the other Haas driver, Vinulator, in 19th with Liam bringing up the rear. Now, of course, predicted pit stop strategy. You see that soft, medium, medium, or the soft, medium, hard. Mikhail, let's talk some tires. We have a lot of drivers in that bottom 10 on the harder compound.
Yeah, they're certainly looking to maybe try and do the one stop from the mediums to the hards. The softs in the game, they just don't last really at all. You might get a good 10 or so laps out of them before they really start to hit the cliff. But with 66 laps, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, it's certainly going to be a struggle to make the one stop work from those red striped compound tires. Then again, I say that, and Alex Bitto pulling out, the masterful strategy last week in Brazil for the endurance series. So if anyone can make that one stop work, it probably is our race leader. But we'll see what everyone opts to do strategy wise, and you never know, a safety car could completely spice up this race. "66 laps ahead of these drivers, Triffium. I can't wait. I'm sure some of these drivers can't wait as well. Might be feeling the nerves. Maybe not as many nerves as they do on Thursdays, but still, it's a race start nonetheless, and it's a long race at that. 66 laps ahead of them. Just wait for Liam at the back of the grid to fill in his grid slot as the light sequence begins. We have 5 red lights ahead of the drivers. They're revving their engines, just waiting for that desync issue. And they are away. It's lights out and away we go here in the circuit of Barcelona, Catalunya. Looks like a pretty decent start from across the grid. Fubar getting an amazing start, having to take to the inside to avoid and making contact. And it looks like Lutra is trying to hold off that AlphaTauri of Domi as they make their way through turns 2 and 3. No major incidents to note of just yet. But there's a lot of shuffling position at the back as BTFU down in 12th place going a little bit wide. And there's a spin. That's Alpha in the racing point off at turn 3. Very, very unfortunate. Don't know if that will bring out a VSC or something. But aside from that, it looks pretty clean through the first complex of corners.
As that was a fantastic and very eventful race start. We have, of course, Crampy very tight to the rear of Yoda.
Champy spun right in the middle of the track. So he's going to be falling down the order, getting passed by both McLarens, and he now has a Haas up his rear wing. But out in front, Alex Bitto already has an 8.5 gap to Freeway behind. Lutra doing very well in third there. Domi and the other AlphaTauri in fourth. Zamis fifth, and two Mercedes of Henners and Yoda sixth and seventh, and two Renaults of Crampy and Ruben in eighth and ninth. And then Fubar, after that amazing start from, I think it was like 16th or 17th on the grid, now up into 10th place for the Scuderia. So both red cars in the points at the moment.
There's a battle unfolding here between Henners and Yoda in the two Mercedes. I don't know if team orders are going to come into play here, but it is if it was Yoda in that driver one car driving Hamilton's car today. It's Henners ahead of him in Bottas's car. Of course, you have the two Renaults behind them pushing pressure. And you have groups of these teams all over the place. You have that Ferrari out clear ahead of this race, but then it's, 2 through 5 all Honda-powered units. You got the AlphaTauris and the Red Bulls. Then you have the Mercedes, then the Renaults. Then you have the other Ferrari of Fubar, who's made an impressive move up into 10th position here. And we have another yellow flag. I believe that is Cotters struggling there in Sector 2, prompting a yellow flag. But you see Yoda here so tight to the rear of Henners, his teammate.
Yeah, also a bit further down the grid, Emulator going wheel to wheel with Seb the Champ. Looks like he's gotten that move done. The two Williams and Haas is fighting it out for those lower positions. Alex Bitto coming across the line to set the fastest lap, and Yoda is gaining rapidly on his teammate. Striff, they're going wheel to wheel down into turn one, but it looks like Yoda has cleanly made that pass before the braking zone.
It's a hard move to try and defend going down to turn one because there's really only one super safe line you can take out of that turn that I find on the exit of turn two there. Otherwise, you're going to be struggling either on the outside or on that inside. You're going to lose some speed, but right now, Ruben and Crampy are going wheel to wheel coming out of turn three, and there's a bit of contact. That is Ruben going a little bit sideways, but he gets that car under control, and now we have these two Renault drivers fighting behind the two Mercedes, which is going to allow them hopefully to pull away. As you can see, Henners there in 7th position, already a second away from Crampy. If they don't put a lid on it, they're going to lose out DRS on that Mercedes.
Meanwhile, a bit further down the grid, I'm just keeping an eye on this fight for 12th place at the moment. Fubar seems to have dropped back a little bit, not sure if he made a mistake or something. But BTFU making his way past Moen there for 13th, and now he's got the Ferrari in his sights. A little bit of a tap there on the rear of that Ferrari, but it doesn't look like he's gotten any damage from it. So they made their way through the technical sector 3. And BTFU showing great pace in that McLaren. A little bit wide on the exit though of 15. So it's going to compromise his run a little bit. But with DRS, surely he'll be able to catch up by the end of the straight.
He's also on those medium compounds. Fubar feeling those softs already here at 3 laps. He makes that very easy
Crampy
overtake.
and Henners going side by side through turns 1 and 2. Sorry to just cut you off there, Striff, but Crampy now getting washed out wide, nearly colliding with his teammate through turn 3. They're still side by side. Oh, Ruben with a massive lockup. Crampy going for the switchback. What amazing racing between the two Renaults. And John and the Alfa Romeo behind them just trying to find any way past. They're still wheel-to-wheel strip. This is amazing.
It is amazing, but there is a huge contact there. That's Crampy off, and that is Ruben into the wall. What on earth happened there? It looks like there was a little bit of contact between the two Renaults. Crampy has definitely come off worse than that, and it looks like he may have been the one that turned in there. I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to look at that in the replay later on. That is a wild, wild move.
Oh, just when it was going so well for those two, it's very, very unfortunate. Meanwhile, a bit further up the grid, looks like the gaps towards the front are starting to extend just a little bit. Alex Bitto able to break that crucial 1 second gap to Freeway behind, but Lutra still in the DRS of the sister team. Looking to hunt down that German in the AlphaTauri. And Yoda now has Zamis in his sights as well.
He's charging through this field. These soft compound tires, though, who knows how long they're going to be able to last, given as these 100% races were very much in the dark, because the tire wear that we're used to seeing is from these 50% races that we run for our regular league, of course. Now, you jump into that 100% distance race. They get the same amount of tires at their disposal for these races. The wear is just calculated differently. Jean very tight to the rear of Henners at the moment. Henners has dropped off massively from his teammate Yoda.
Yeah, I don't know if if he's carrying any sorts of damage. It doesn't look like it. Maybe he just isn't quite finding the pace in that second Mercedes. But he has that Alfa Romeo just hounding him down. And you can see just how close Jean is to that rear. And Liam as well catching up. And BT has also made his way into the points, trying to utilize those mediums to full effect.
That DRS down into turn 1 here is going to be so crucial in that medium compound tire, carrying so much more speed with that DRS enabled right now. Henners with a very interesting weave down into turn 1. Not entirely sure what he was trying to do there. Of course, Jean ahead into 7th position. Liam now is behind him.
So have Moen into the pits. So those few will be gaining a couple of spots. Fubar also came in that previous lap to fit on a set of hard compound tires, so he's looking to go long. But yeah, the gap's starting to extend a little bit.
I do believe
already able to break out of 1 second.
I do believe Alpha may have had an issue there, Mickey. I think he's watching his ghosted car right now during this race. So if we're able to maybe, if he's in or able to join back in, hopefully. He's saying he can't in the chat, but it's Hanners versus Liam right now, wheel to wheel down into this left-hander. Who's going to come out better? It looks like the McLaren for now, but Hanners with a decent exit. He's utilizing that overtake. They're wheel to wheel. And Liam with so much more traction there, it looks like Henners lifted off.
And looks like Moen's had a bit of an issue at turn 3 as well. And the other racing point, he's missing a whole lot of that right-hand side of his
and
front
Lutra is going for it down into turn 1, wheel to wheel with Freeware. They're coming through turn 2 now. He's out in front just by a little bit. That is Lutra into 2nd position with a fantastic move down into turn 1. Very clean racing from these two in this fight for podium positions, Mikhail.
Yeah, it just seems like Freeway just got caught a little bit off guard from the Red Bull behind him, but Lutra doing very, very well to make that move stick. So now he'll have some cleaner air to try and pull a gap if he can and try to reel in that Ferrari of Alex Bitto some 2 seconds ahead of him.
Definitely going to be a battle between these two. I mean, we saw Lutra with Alex Bitto last week for almost an entire stint within half a second of the Ferrari, and we'll see if he's able to catch back up with that Ferrari once again. I know for those tuning in and saw that last week, we'd all love to see it again around a different circuit between those two. Freeware was in on that mix as well as was Yoda. So these 4 drivers seem to continuously collect at the front of this grid, but this time around we have another piece of the puzzle that we didn't get to see last time around in Brazil, and of course that is Zamis Mikau, currently within 1.5 seconds of Yoda. Yoda with that DRS perhaps on Domi. No, he didn't get it down this pit straight, and that's going to cost him a little bit. But it's also going to be good for Zamis to have another run to catch up to that DRS.
Yeah, Yoda's setting the fastest lap of the race so far. Another driver who's doing very well in this race is Domi in that other AlphaTauri. Currently sitting in P4, trying his best to stay with his Tier 1 teammate. But he's having a great showing here in Spain. As further down the grid, Seb the champ on Inulator. Heading into turn 1, Inulator holding that outside line. Is able to stay in front for the time being. But you can just see the understeer from the 2 Williams cars, both going off the circuit. But Inulator putting up a great defense there to hold on to that P12 for now, Striff.
That was a fantastic defense from the Hasses. Seb right now, he seemed to struggle coming out of turn 3. If we saw Mikal there on that outside, his teammate Adam on the mediums behind him there with a lockup, but he's trying to, of course, catch up to that teammate. Right now, Seb showing a little more pace on the softs than those mediums than, of course, Adam. Inulator, though, he's not going to be finished with Seb until that DRS is out of reach for Seb. Of course, we have a couple of other gaps to look at down this grid. Lutra is very close with Freeware still down into turn 1. Are we going to see a switch between them once again for position? I don't think Freeware had enough of a gap to make a lunge there. We'll check back in a second as it's going to be back on with Seb and then later Henners, excuse me, in P10 now. He's coming to the pit lane. A couple of drivers going to collect some positions from that Mercedes at the moment as he jumps onto some medium rubber, not feeling the softs anymore, Mick, and he's going to pop out quite far down here.
Yeah, it seems like the softs aren't really lasting that whole lot longer, but Crampy now making a move on Cotters in their Haas, trying to recover from that accident he had with his teammate a couple laps ago. So he's now up into 14th place, 3 seconds away from his next target.
Speaking of seconds to the next target, it is Yoda within half a second of Domi right now, and I think we may see it here on the end of, well, the beginning of lap 10. Coming down into that turn 1, he is going to have the DRS. We'll see if he's able to maintain it through the chicane here to have a good run. He has a lot of battery at his disposal right now, but as does Domi, not utilizing any of the battery at the moment.
So Yoda still within that half a second to keep the DRS, as is Freeware on Lutra in front of them, but both of them just aren't able to get close enough to make a move. As there's a little bit of a spin, that's Freeware! As a rare mistake from the German, he's going to lose 2 positions now to Domi and Yoda. So Freeware, I don't know if that was the dirty air or something. Fubar is out of this session at the exit of turn 9, and we have a safety car on lap 10 of 66.
Well, Mikkel, you hate to see it. Fubar out of this race, the first driver to fold here on lap 10. Actually, excuse me, he was on lap 9, unfortunately, when he crashed. And that is an area where you'll see a lot of drivers crash here in Spain. I've seen it throughout, of course, F1 2019. We saw in MRL action a multitude of racers lose it outside of that Sector 2 DRS straight zone there. I believe Skybits, I remember he had a fairly rough crash there in Tier 1 last season. So, safety car, and that's going to shake things up, and that's something that we didn't have an opportunity to really see last week around in Brazil.
Now, my eyes are firmly fixed on this other red Ferrari. What's he going to do? He pulls into the pit striff, but what set of tires is it going to be?
I have a funny feeling we're going to see some hards, Mikkel. Do you think we can see him go 56 laps on the hards? I think so.
Well, it's not the hards. I think I see the yellow stripe. It is the medium compound. He's going to get held up massively in the pits. Rejoining right in front of Domi, so we'll still hold on to that P1, but there is a hive of activity in this pit lane.
Oh, I thought he was going to go on. Lutra's going for the hards. So, somebody, and his name might be Lutra, could be looking to go to the end here, and I would love to see him try. He sacrificed a serious race position last week for an attempt at a 2-stop, and I think he lost out as a result. But this time around, he's going on to a serious hard compound tire. Jean is currently leading this race on 10-lap-old mediums now, Mikkel. Alex Bitto has fallen behind him. Of course, John yet to pit in this race. You can have a look at the stops there now. Pretty well everybody on this grid with the exception of the Williams in 9th, which is Adam. And John there currently ahead of the Spaniard Alex Bitto in the Alfa Romeo running in 1st. Take a look at the fastest lap as well. It's currently held on to by Yoda, that 120.1 in the Mercedes.
Yeah, these drivers who start on the mediums, getting a bit of track position, pretty much every driver utilizing that safety car to get off those soft compound tires, which I'm sure we're dying at that stage. You know, they said around lap 10 they would lose all their life, and it looks like that has rung true. So no one on those red striped tires anymore. It's all very yellow here at Spain, with a couple hard tires sprinkled throughout the grid.
And the key hard compound to keep note of is that one sitting on Lutra's timing tower section here. He's on these white rimmed hard compound tires, and he is in a field of mediums. So we're gonna have to take a look and see how he's able to maintain pace with a very tight grid behind him on a slower tire.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to get those hards up to temperature. You know, and those mediums are going to provide a whole lot more grip, especially at this restart. So Lutra definitely is going to have to worry about Domi, Yoda, Zamis, and Freeware behind him. 4 very, very quick drivers, and I wouldn't even discount Liam in that group either. Maybe a bit too far back to really provide a challenge on this first lap, but even still, there are some quick drivers behind the Red Bull. So he certainly has to watch out for that.
Taking a look at this grid as everybody has had this opportunity to come together now once again in this race. Any wrongdoings or mishaps that have happened previous have kind of been thrown out the window. We're going to get a restart. And, well, there is one thing that I have known to find with these F1 safety car restarts, Mikhail, and that is the possibility of safety cars breeding safety cars. Do you think we'll see another safety car coming out of this one?
I certainly hope not.
It would be
very, very hard to
unfortunate.
commentate over a safety car, but
Cricket.
we'll do a bit. We'll do our best.
Yeah, that's for
The
sure.
safety car is in this lap. Just see that message from race control. So Jean, in that Alfa Romeo, will now set the pace of the field. Wait for that safety car to make its way into the pit lane, and then we will be green flag running once again, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, if you are enjoying the stream and enjoying the racing, we do this every Saturday that there is a real-life F1 race. So we'll be having a week off next week, but the week after we'll be back for Spa, I do believe. As Crampy will get a 5-second time penalty. But yeah, I'll finish the plug here. If you smash that follow button, we do this every Thursday, and soon we'll be having a race on Tuesday as well. But enough about that. Let's get back to the racing, Striff.
We got a 3-wide move down into turn 1 there. It was, of course, Zamis, Yoda, and Freer, but we have Luktra in third, and Zamis is doing some very fancy maneuvering there. Into 4th position he goes, and that's Domi and Yoda wheel-to-wheel through turn 3. And this restart is very tight, and that's Alex Bitto on the inside of the Alfa Romeo. Coming out of the right-hander, he is ahead. So much more traction on those fresher medium compound tires right now, McCown. It is currently Alex Bitto back into the lead of this race after the safety car. Jean is going to have to do some serious defensive driving, which could play into a huge, huge gap for the Ferrari. Of course, Luktra and Zamis, 3-4 for the Red Bull squad right now, are going to do some teamwork dynamics. Hard compound, medium compound tires between the two. We'll see if we get a swap of positions. And now that is Jean, and he's had a huge off here. Outside of that Sector 2 straight, where we saw, of course, Fubar retire the car, and now it's Yoda still so close to the rear of Zamis. Luktra in second on these hards.
That move was crucial for Alex. He's already gotten a 1.4 second gap. Luktra just isn't able to get those hards into a working range just yet. Very, very unfortunate for the Alfa Romeo. And actually the other Alfa Romeo of Gadwin having issues as well. Wow. So a very hectic restart.
Domi is going for it. He looks to the inside there, Mikhail. He jumps back in line, and you saw it from Freeware's onboard there. Of course, Domi now behind the rear of that Mercedes. Still no heroics into turn 1. Thank you very much, says Yoda. He'll wait to defend another day.
Looks like Hennes is also struggling to keep up with this lead field. He's already, back 1.5 seconds on the second lap after this restart. So it isn't looking too great, but Alex Bitto knows that Luttra could potentially go to the end of this race. So he needs to pull a monstrous gap if he wants to keep this race win.
We have so many fights happening right now. There's a big train following Luktra through into that podium position possibility, but we have BTFU here at the rear end of the points in 10th, looking to get a few more as Adam and Henners ahead of him are very close, and I think it's possible we may see even a double overtake attempt into turn 1 if the pace maintains at its, well, current rate.
Alex Bitto setting a new fastest lap of the race with a 1:19.5.
Now Henners has moved very far ahead of Adam, but BTFU with a very, very good carry of speed on the exit there. Gonna get ahead of the Williams down into turn 1. And
That's
it's
an important move. And behind them as well, Inulator and John going at it. John trying to recover from his mistake there. He's able to make that move stick.
Seb the champ right now in 13th. He's catching up with Inulator as well. Inulator in 12th. Seb in 13th. Looking to catch up with his teammate Adam in 10th right now.
Yeah, it looks like the field's sort of spreading out into little pockets of cars. You can still see that fight for that final podium place there. Lutra pulling a little bit of a gap to his teammate, actually, despite being on the harder compounded tire. So definitely the pressure building for Zamis in P3 at the moment. As for Henry as well, in P8 having BTFU just all over his rear wing at the moment, Striff.
BTFU, a driver we know at this point to be very patient at the wheel of that car, and we'll see what he does with Henry here. He's got that DRS. He has the overtake. It's a clean move to the inside down that pit straight. Henry's is going to lose out for 9th, and that's Adam behind him, and we have a lovely helicopter shot here coming up through turn 1 and 2. Henry's there, dropping off now half a second behind that McLaren. BTFU looking to catch up with Liam ahead. Now, one thing to note here is for Liam started in 20th position here, Mick Yow, and he's made up 13 slots. He's up into 7th right now. And a great race from him. That safety car doing him a lot of favors as well, as he's onto some fresh rubber in a very good running position. Meanwhile, Domi still in this hunt between Yoda for that final podium position, as Zamis right now only 8/10 ahead of the Mercedes.
You've got both AlphaTauris trying to get further up in the points. Both very, very close to one another. Look, you get the feeling that Zamis is holding up this group of cars here. And now Zamis is also just fallen out of DRS range as well. So that rear wing isn't going to open for the Red Bull. This could be what Yoda needs. He's got a battery to use it. He's got that overtake mode. DRS is open. Zamis moving to the right hand side, trying to break the toe if he can. Not quite close enough on this occasion. Is any of these drivers to make a move into turn 1? But I don't think it will be long before we see some wheel-to-wheel action for these drivers, I'm sure.
Speaking of wheel-to-wheel action, it's Adam and John wheel-to-wheel down into turn 1. John getting out into 10th position. Seb behind Adam now, very close. You see Adam on those 16-lap-old mediums. Seb on that much fresher rubber. He's going to have a good opportunity to make a move on his teammate soon here. But Adam sticking very well with that Alfa Romeo. Within half a second still, as they're on the same tire life at the moment.
Another group of cars that's getting fairly close to each other. Further down the grid is the two Renaults again on the back of Inulator and the Haas. Just another fight to keep your eye on. So Crampy's getting very close to the Haas there as well, and has been quite close for I think about a lap and a half now.
Another driver who's
isn't
close.
Quite able to make that move stick.
Ruben, we saw him and Crampy have a bit of an issue earlier. We'll see if they can come and have a clean battle once again, as Ruben is very close to the rear of his teammate right now, but Crampy's sticking well with Inulator. Meanwhile, we have Domi. This time around, Mikau, I think we might see it. He has that overtake. It's lying dormant. He's not using it right now.
Yoda's gaining, but it isn't enough. Just see the power of the DRS as Yoda touches the inside curb.
That was a big slide out there.
A little bit.
Does well to recover.
A little bit wide. Domi looking for a move up the inside. Yoda opens the door. They're wheel to wheel. Freeway right behind them as well. Yoda later on the brakes, but is he too late? No, he's able to get that car slowed up in time and will hold on to that P4 place.
Very tight battle between these two right now, and this is a very tricky bit of circuit to have a battle through. Let's see how they go. On board with Domi right now. Overtake, DRS in full swing. He's going to go for it here. Yoda still with that DRS, and that is preventing Domi from getting that carry of speed that he needs to make a clean overtake into that turn. Yoda's just able to carry enough speed into that turn to stay ahead of the AlphaTauri, and Zamis is the one giving it to him, and this is what's going to be tricky. Domi is very close with Yoda here. Freeware not too far behind him, and Yoda is hunting down Zamis. We have this massive snake.
Oh, he gets a better run.
coming
He
through
gets
the
a better run through
circuit.
the final corner. This could be it. The DRS and overtake wide open. Yoda gets past. But Domi having a little bit of a worse run through that final corner. So now he's got the Red Bull of Zamis in his sights. A little bit of a lockup there for the AlphaTauri. But it doesn't seem to have cost him too much there.
Yoda needed to get that move done, Mikhail. He had those AlphaTauris breathing down his neck, and now he's going to hopefully be able to pull a gap away from Zamis and leave Zamis to deal with the Domi and Freeware squad behind him. Zamis, though, very close to Yoda through that one. Looking for a move on the inside. Maybe Yoda doing a good job of closing the door. Now up through this tricky left-right section where it's very easy to lose the traction. Not a lot of throttle input coming through that turn. And, of course, now through this hanging right-hander into the DRS straight. Zamis is going to have the DRS on Yoda as well. And we saw how that impacted Domi in that look for an overtake on Yoda. And he's very, very late on the brakes. He actually comes off the brakes, lets that car flow a little bit further into the turn, taps Zamis very lightly on the rear. And could that be enough to put Zamis out of DRS of the Mercedes? And if it is, that's going to cost Domi as well. He's looking at Zamis. He doesn't want Zamis out of that DRS enough so that he can't catch Yoda.
Doesn't look like Zamis has lost DRS just yet. Just really hovering around that 1 second mark. But Zamis is pushing that car. He's up down to 3% on his battery. The car's probably screaming at this point, but all these drivers still very, very close, but just not quite close enough to make a move. And all this fighting is music in Alex Bitto's ears. He's pulled nearly a 4.2 second gap.
Crampy was looking for a move on Adam into turn 1 here. It looks like him and Adam having some kind of lag connection problem. Just something you hate to see. Of course, Adam's still out in 12th right now. Ruben holding station behind his teammate in 13th. But these two drivers, they need to get a move on to get ahead of these Williams, because Adam is on 19-lap-old medium compound tires right now, and he is holding up Crampy in this Renault with tires half the life. Or, well, half the degradation, if you will.
Yeah, it certainly appears like that, considering how much he's now dropped off his teammate, except the champ in P11. I'm just keeping my eyes focused on this battle at the front. Looks like Zamis has just gotten out of DRS range, and Domi is a lot closer. On the Red Bull, looks to the inside. Pretty easy move there, gets it done before the braking zone. And now Domi is back up to P4 with Yoda next on his radar once again.
It was a very smooth move by Domi there. Not much Zamis can do. And now Domi, without it, he's within a second of Yoda for the time being. But is Yoda going to be able to pull that gap here coming into that next straight? And if he is, that's going to hopefully set him ahead enough. Ooh. And who is this? It's Zamis. He's had an issue. And I didn't see what happened there with him, but he's now dropped into 7th. So he has now lost out on that 4th position. And even more so, as it seems he had that problem there. So he's now in 7th, and you hate to see that from the Red Bull. But Henner's right now in 10th. He's within half a second of Jean ahead of him. Jean still on those mediums, Mick.
Yeah, he's certainly pushing them out as long as he can, trying to make that one-stop work. I don't
know
and
Yoda,
how long it's going to last, but Yoda in the Mercedes has spun around, trying to get that car going, and Zamis will pass him as well. So Yoda now down into 7th place. That's super, super unfortunate for the Albanian driver.
It's a big deal for BTFU, though. He's going to have DRS on those drivers.
It certainly is a golden opportunity for the McLaren. Which way is he going to go? He looks to the inside, but has he got enough speed in that car? It doesn't look like it. Yoda a little bit later on the brakes.
BTFU has a lot of power on the exit of 2 here. And all of these drivers have formed their own little party in 6, 7, 8. And, I mean, Yoda and Zamis aren't pretty...
Henner's in the other Mercedes has spun around as well.
Yoda with a lunge. He's going around the outside of Zamis here, Mikhail. He's on the outside curbing. Is he going to get the move round Zamis? He does. That is a fantastic move from Yoda in the Mercedes. And now it's BTFU's turn to look at the Red Bull. He's looking at the outside, coming into the long hanging right-hander here. drops things back a little bit, but he has such traction on the exit. He's got the DRS in full swing. He gets the move ahead into 7th, and Zamis has now, inside of a lap, dropped into 8th position from 4th.
That is super, super unfortunate. You hate to see it from a driver who we know has pace. I think he might actually be carrying some wing damage, if I am not mistaken. And yes, he is missing that right-hand end plate.
Domi,
so he's going to dive
Freeware,
into the pit.
exchanging positions here are the two AlphaTauris down into turn 1. Freeware now into 3rd. Of course, these drivers have a hurdle to climb as Luktra right now holding station in 2nd position on hard compound tires. He's 2 seconds ahead of the two AlphaTauris. Meanwhile, Alex Bitto, the Spaniard, in the Ferrari, driving around here his home circuit, doing very well with a 6-second lead in that Ferrari. And he is just cruising, Mikal.
Yeah, I think he's still worried about that Red Bull behind him potentially going for that one stop. It would certainly be a challenge to make those hard tires last that long in the race.
Yeah, and we saw Zamis and Henners both come into the pit lane. Now, Zamis is onto some soft rubber tires here, and you have Henners onto these hards. So, huge difference between those two coming in on the same lap.
I think from this stage, hards can make it to the end, so I'm not entirely sure what Zamis' strategy is. But he is on that fresh soft compound tire, so he is going to be rapid for the next couple of laps. He's already right on the gearbox of Ruben in the Renault, as Freeway will now set a new fastest lap of the race for the 1:19.4 as he tries to reel in Lutra in 2nd.
Ruben doing very well on his debut for an MRL race in that Renault. Now he has a very quick Red Bull behind him in Zamis. Zamis, of course, the founder of the league, looking to catch up into some points positions here. Not having the race he wanted there, struggling on the last couple laps as we saw. Now Ruben under threat. And we saw, while that battle was unfolding, a couple things to note. Crampy finally made it ahead of the Williams Adam into 10th position and has separated himself from his teammate Zamis now. With that very fresh set of soft compound tires, a very easy move down into turn 1. Meanwhile, Crampy, speaking of him moving ahead of Adam, he's now caught up to the other Williams driver, that is Seb. They're on the same tire life mediums right now, and half a second is the gap.
Yeah, we're going to see what the Renault driver can do. Cramping showing some good pace in Tier 2 this season thus far. Getting a podium in Bahrain. So he certainly has some pace. Alex Bitto setting a new fastest lap with a 1:19.2. But Crampy isn't quite close enough to make a dive into turn. So hopefully he's able to stay with that Williams through Sector 3 and make a move down the main straight.
And Seb's had a big off there. He's gone into the gravel, Mikal. He looks to fight back, but Crampy's already into 9th position. Now it could be Seb with the DRS down into turn 1, which is going to be bad news for Crampy because that will just hand Seb the position right back. And here we're going to see it. DRS now overtaken full swing. Does he have enough of a run? Crampy, no DRS on that rear, and he has so much speed. And it looks like Seb, casual run off the track there, did him some good, as it would have most definitely been Crampy's turn to jump into 9th on that one. But now it's Seb in 9th for another lap here. We'll see what Crampy's able to do come Sector 2 with that other DRS opportunity. Overtake very low for the Renault as well.
Yeah, the field seems to be spreading out a little bit. Currently this fight for 9th is the closest gap we have on track. And the only other driver within DRS range is BTFU on Yoda, just up the road in 6th and 7th. So the field very spread at the moment. But there's a yellow flag in Sector 2. That's Zamis again, having a spin at the exit of turn 4. So he is having a miserable, miserable race around here.
Yeah, he is not having the best outing, and I will say this, he's having a much better outing than we saw in Brazil. I mean, it must have been very hard for him. Brazil, he wasn't able to get that car really off that start line with a very early retirement. Now we have Crampy. He is struggling behind Seb, and I don't think he's going to have the run he needs in this Renault to make that move on the Williams either, Mikal.
Seb using a little bit of that battery just to make sure he stays in front. And yet Crampy isn't gaining as much as he needs to make a move on the Williams. But he's still doing well to keep it within that DRS range for the time being. No, Inulator seems to have had an issue. He's now left the session. Hopefully he's able to join back sooner rather than later. But
Well,
BTFU has fallen out of DRS range of Yoda as well, so the field really starting to spread out here on lap 26. Just starting lap 27 as Alex Bido crosses the timing line.
Crampy, that DRS in Sector 2. It's going to bring him close to Seb here with a huge lunge late on the braking there. He brings himself within a couple tenths, but is he going to sacrifice all that speed on the exit, all that time on the exit, coming around this right-hander now, which is where we saw him struggle a little bit last lap, and Seb did before him, the lap before. So we'll see if he has a good enough run to overtake this Williams here. Now, that's one thing. We're watching a Williams in 9th position right now. How do you guys in the chat feel about that? Because Seb in 9th doing a fantastic job defending, and he's now in 8th as somebody has pit, and that's going to be Jean finally getting off of those very worn mediums, and Crampy looks to the inside, but he still isn't within striking distance.
Yeah, it must be quite frustrating being behind that Williams. Zamis also trying to make up ground after those couple of mistakes. He's now up into 14th place. As there's a spin from one of the Mercedes. I think that might be Henner's. And yes, that is Henry on the exit of turn 4.
Ruben and Jean wheel to wheel right now coming out of Sector 1. As Jean came out of that pit lane, Ruben was looking for some position from him. A lot of speed still in that Renault yet, and Jean on the cold tire is not going to be able to fight him too much at the moment. So we'll see, well, what Jean's able to do.
Yeah, aside from that, still have that battle for 9th place at the moment, but that's about the only real on-track fights we have at the moment. But Jean putting a lot of pressure on this Renault, just hounding him every which way he goes, saying, look, mate, I'm still right behind you. Don't screw up now.
Well, Jean here just needs to rub his hands together. He knows the tires are older. He came out on this fresh rubber. He's got less than a second to the Renault ahead. And Jean's on the freshest tires on the grid. He's going to have probably the most pace come the finale of this one. There you see, look at the carry of speed on the Renault. Is he going to look for a move? He decides to stay patient. He doesn't need to risk anything at the moment because everybody ahead of him, and there is a huge spin from the Alfa Romeo, and that is something you hate to see, but Adam ahead of him has also spun. And Ruben has made his way into 11th and made out like an absolute bandit there. And now Zamis is wheel to wheel with the Alfa Romeo, and this is absolute wild racing. Zamis is going to get a position from him. And now those hards that weren't feeling up to temperature are definitely going to be up to temperature now, especially in those rears.
Zamis runs to the back of Adam. Pushes Adam a little bit off the track.
Oh, and there's
Adam
a big incident.
On the wall. Wow. That is very, very unusual. Both drivers miraculously still able to continue, albeit with probably significant damage to their front wings.
I can most definitely guarantee you both the Alfa Romeo of Jean and the Williams of Adam at present missing a significant chunk of downforce on the front end of those cars, and they are most definitely going to have to pit, and it's a very bad sight to see for Jean in that Alfa Romeo as he was on those fresh hards to the end. And now you see there on the front left wing missing a massive amount of that wing. And he's definitely coming into the pit lane, as is the Williams, and that is stuff that we don't like to see on circuit. It was a racing incident at best, and now it's turned into something a little bit more, perhaps because of frustration on circuit. Of course, that is stuff we will address post-race. Right now, Crampy still in this fight with Seb in the Williams for 8th position, and these two have been doing the tango lap after lap now, Mikal. Oh, and there goes Crampy into the wall coming out of Sector 2, or into that DRS straight, excuse me. And that's somewhere we already saw a retirement from Fubar. And he's going to take no damage on that front wing, which is just, he has escaped with such luck in that Renault. That is most certainly a breath of relief from Crampy not taking any damage.
Yeah, all these drivers seem to make a few mistakes here and there, which is not exactly something we want to see. It looks like Inulator now diving into the pits to get off those medium tires, put on a set of hards. To the end of the race, I presume.
Now, Freeware currently very close to Luchtra, Mikal. Luchtra on the 18-lap-old hards. Freeware, same tire life, however, a compound down in those mediums. And now 1.2, no DRS as of yet, but of course we saw it when Freeware got into third. It was 2 seconds, so slowly ticking away at that gap. And now there's a yellow flag in Sector 3. Looks like somebody may have just gone wide there. No major incident to speak of down back there. But Gadwin currently in 14th, another driver who we haven't had an opportunity to jump on with very much this race. On these 26-lap-old mediums, he's coming up on Alpha, who had that unfortunate disconnect earlier. Of course, if you're wondering why Alpha's car is so up in this grid, it's because the AI difficulty we use in MRL is a little bit higher than that of the average. That reason being, ghosting cars aren't a thing in MRL. Everybody having to overtake people naturally. As you see there, Gadwin pulling off for blue flags. That's the race leader, Alex Bitto, the Spaniard, overtaking 2 cars. And as a result of that AI in Alpha, Gadwin getting a good move. Of course, he had to think fast there. But this is something we do so that drivers have to slow down through yellow flags and overtake cars as they would if the racer was there. And it's just something that we like to throw into these races. And so far, it's made for some fantastic racing. Meanwhile, Freeware Mick, he's made up that gap on Luchtra. He's now within DRS range, but is he going to hold that DRS range through the chicane? That is the question.
We certainly hope so. I mean, he's done all this work to get within that DRS range. Has used a little bit of his battery, but Luchtra has a little bit more of it to play with. But that rear wing does open for the AlphaTauri, so certainly might become, you know, getting within striking distance in a few laps' time. But as we're approaching the halfway mark in this race, this grid, if I do say so myself, is very, very spread at the moment.
It is spread, and there's a lot of drivers on these medium compound tires that are going to need to pit again, most definitely. I mean, actually, let's be honest, I think everybody's going to have to pit again. I think everybody's going to have to pit again at this point in this race. And we saw the strategy. Soft, medium, medium, soft, medium, hard were the suggested strategies, which suggests the automatic 2-stop. I don't think that this 100% distance race is going to be achievable on the 1-stop. If it was, I think a lot of these racers would have had to start on the mediums. And the only one that did so, who's still on them, is well, not even, I was going to say Gadwin. I was going to say Gadwin, but even he had that early pit stop. And, of course, the tire life doesn't add up.
The only 2 that can feasibly make it to the end, I believe, are those 2 in 17th and 18th, a lap down. So I think everyone else will have to make at least one more stop. I think Luchtra and Cotters might try and extend those tires, as maybe with Ruben as well. But that is no easy task to take hard, you know, some 40, 50 laps.
These endurance races, they make for, throughout the past 5 rounds that we've done, there's always that sort of lull period because everyone's spaced out, and you see it the same in Formula 1 as well in the real world championship. There's always that lull, so much excitement at the beginning of the race, then the pit stops come, you get a little bit more excitement, right? And then next thing you know, things space themselves out, everybody's on those harder compound tires, everyone's pulling gaps, managing tires differently, and then you see that hustle and bustle come near that end of the race time, or that second pit stop, or that safety car. So right now we're in that little lull. We have one gap to really focus on, and that is, of course, this battle between Freeware and Luchtra. And who knows, we could see another safety car. We've only had one thus far. Henner's finally leaving the session after retiring down in 19th there. He has had a very unfortunate race, making it halfway here. Well, not even half now in that. And Fubar, the two, well, the Ferrari and the Mercedes, two cars that you'd never expect to see out this early in a Formula One race. Of course, we're in a different world here in the virtual side of things. We're watching, of course, Alex Bido in the lead with a Ferrari right now, which is something I don't think we may see tomorrow. Of course, fingers crossed for me, Formula One fan. Mikhail, any thoughts on tomorrow's World Championship?
Well, I'm hoping there's a little bit more exciting than we're seeing at the moment, but I'm not super hopeful. Spain, stereotypically a track where, you know, like I said in the pre-show, can be extremely hard to overtake. And we've even seen that in the virtual space. You know, Freeware has now dropped off the back of Lutra even. So those medium tires not providing the grip they once were. But yeah, hopefully we're going to see something exciting in the race tomorrow.
A very good race up into this point, this cool down period, if you will. And of course, right now, Alex Bido, the Spaniard, driving that Ferrari, leading this race by 10.7 seconds on those mediums. And he is definitely going to have to come in again. But will he have enough of a gap to come out very close to those podium positions? We will see by the time that time comes around. Right now, 23 laps, going 24 presently on those mediums, as is all the drivers behind him down through into 7th position.
Yeah, all these top 10 starting, well, making their first pit stop under those safety car conditions that we saw 24 laps ago. So, yeah, not really too much happening on the track at the moment. Everyone's just trying to manage the tires, manage the fuel, ERS, and just, you know, sort of in autopilot mode, if you will.
Freeware has dropped off Lutra, and it's allowed Domi to catch up a little bit of time behind his teammate, but now Freeware pushing a little more. You see it was very tight to that 1 second mark on the interval tower between the two teammates in 3rd and 4th.
This is just how it goes at Spain sometimes. It's a great testing track, I'll give it that, but the racing can be quite difficult. This Inulator will now go into the pits again, it seems. Not happy with those set of medium compound tires. Not too sure what's going on with him, but
could be deciding to come in for a change to hard compound tires. Maybe go safe to the end. Doesn't look like he's getting any kind of wing change. He's going to get another set of saw. Oh, and he is retired out of the pit lane. Okay, so he is finished with this one. Domi within a 1.5 seconds of Freeware.
BTFU now into the pits as well for the McLaren squad. He's now fit on a set of hard compound tires, and he will come out in what looks like to be still P7. And it will definitely be P7 as Seb, the champ, follows him into the pits to get off those one mediums onto a fresh set of hards. So I dare say the leaders will certainly be thinking about pitting off those mediums. Especially since Alex Bido is now losing time to Lutra behind him. So I think it's definitely time to come into the pits, get off those mediums, and run hards to the end of the race.
Lutra 9.8. He's dropped, like you said, below that 10 seconds, but it's fluctuating as Alex Bido goes down the straight. He's so far ahead. The timing tower is going to eventually hit that sub 10 second mark very soon. But it is, as you said, those hard compound tires right now are doing very well for Lutra in comparison to the mediums at this point in time, 25 lap old.
Both Domi and Liam into the pits. Domi putting another set of medium tires to the end. Certainly possible, but considering the lap times that we were seeing on those 25 lap old mediums, not sure if that's quite the fast tire strategy, but we'll wait and see. Domi certainly has been showing some great pace in this race so far. Curious to see how that strategy goes for him, especially since Liam right behind him fit on a set of hard compound tires. to go to the end of this race as well.
Well, variety of pit stops coming through now is going to create a little bit more overtaking action, because these drivers on the fresh compound tires are going to be pulling a little bit more pace out of their cars compared to, of course, those older tire running racers.
Looks like Alex Bitter has been able to find a bit more pace in that Ferrari on those tires. Now lapping the Williams of Seb the Champ, currently running in 11 himself. So only the top 10 on the lead lap as it stands. Alex Bitter pulling out a masterclass here around his home circuit.
I have to say, this has got to be one of the most spread out grids that we have seen so far this season. And I think such is the art of Spain. You really only have that one major DRS zone. That second one doesn't do much, I find, to allow these cars to stay within the train. It's really this first one. And that second one's kind of just like that turbo boost you get trying to do a checkpoint time trial or something like that. But, you know, that being said, we don't have a single gap below 2 seconds at the moment, and that's something of a rarity around here. And, well, Tier 2 and Tier 1 action, of course, for MRL takes place on Thursdays, where we see a little bit more wheel-to-wheel action, a little bit shorter race, and a lot more overtaking. That is for sure. Of course, these endurance races, they're more of a testament to the driver's ability to go for the entirety of a Formula One race. Of course, they're not experiencing the G-force, but all of those other motions, especially for those on wheel. And I will say this, for those on pad, it can be a very, very long race.
I mean, 66 laps is a lot of laps, especially at a circuit as technically challenging as Spain. It might not look like it on the track map. You know, it doesn't have all those twisty turning S's, but you know, those long prolonged corners where you just, you know, on the edge of grip, especially with those worn tires, can be quite the challenge. And also going through that blind right of turn 9, it's hard to get right, you know, time after time. We've seen a couple drivers this evening, unfortunately, make a couple mistakes there. Fubar, our first retirement, falling victim to one of those, and Crampy also having a little bit of a mishap there a bit earlier in the race.
Right now we are looking at a fight between Domi and Freeware, because we saw Domi come in for the undercut on his teammate. Freeware came out ahead despite the undercut attempt, and not only that, but has now caught up to the back marker of Alpha, and that back marker prevented Domi from sticking with the Alpha Tauri teammate as well as he would have liked. But he's doing a good job of catching back up. I'd like to say that back marker cost him a couple tenths.
Looks like these final front runners on the mediums diving it into the pits. Alex Bitter now, our race leader, and has been leading this race from start, well, basically from the start lights. Now comes into the pits with a 9.3 second gap to chase down Lutra, who he fought with so much last week in Sao Paulo.
This battle for podium positions. Domi gets the move ahead of Freeware down into turn 1 as well, Mikal.
It's starting that back up strip. We're starting to get a couple battles here.
That's right.
Happening across the circuit. It's great to see. So Domi now into that podium place. Yoda, where is he going to come out? Looks like he's come out some 3 seconds behind Liam in that McLaren. Crampy now also into the pits. But Freeware is not letting his teammate go, Strif. He's sticking to the back of him like a hawk.
Yes, he is,
I think
and
that's what the thing is.
something along those lines. We'll run with it. As Freeware with that DRS not quite able to make a move.
Yellow flag, sector 2. It's one of the
Oh.
McLarens.
That's Liam off.
I think that's Liam. Wow, so I think that's turn 7 catching out the McLaren driver. He's lost a whole chunk of his wing. And right after he put onto those hard compound tires as well. That's very, very unfortunate. He'll have to make another stop, put on a fresh set of mediums, try and make it to the end of the race, and hopefully avoid getting some more damage.
Yeah, and he lets BTF Ubai very easily before he jumps into that pit lane. Doesn't want to hold up BTFU any more than he needs to. Meanwhile, Freeware is still within a second of Domi, and there's a car outside of turn 1. That is, I think, Gadwin. Or is that Jean? That is Jean. Jean has had an issue because he was slow up through turn 2 and 3.
Liam has crashed into the pit wall, it would seem. His car, like, just sitting on the apex of turn 16. I'm not quite sure how he managed that.
Are we going to see a safety car as a result?
I don't know.
That is a very, very
like
tricky position to put, well, to have the car retired. And it doesn't look like we're going to see that that safety car after all. No. So back to green flag racing. Just car has, you know, self-destruct sequence has been initiated and completed for that car on circuit, and the Mercs didn't have to lift a finger. That's all we got to see there. Now, Alex Biddo has gotten that undercut successfully, I think, here on Lutra by a landslide, because he's on those fresh mediums. Now Lutra coming out.
I think Lutra was expecting that to be a safety car. I think that's why he pit. But obviously now we now know that it wasn't for whatever reason. I don't know. The car being parked in the apex of the final corner. Seems like it would be warranting of a safety car, but the game works in mysterious ways. So now Lutra now gone from 1st to 4th. But we have this fight spicing up for the runner-up spot, which is great to see.
Lutra is going to give us a show. I can feel it, and he always does, especially after watching Brazil back last week. That was such a great race from Lutra between Alex Biddo. Now it's Freeware very tight to the rear of Domi, but Lutra showing so much pace on the most, well, the freshest medium compound tires between these three, as you go 4, 2, and now 0. So 2 laps between each of these three.
Oh no, as BTFU has had a spun at the same place his teammate did as well. Just looking at the track map, he's got that car going on once again. Doesn't look like he's got any wing damage. But he certainly has lost a whole heap of time to the drivers behind.
Freeware under threat right now from Lutra, but that DRS, as we've seen it do this entire race, giving Freeware a very good defense position on that Red Bull. We'll see if Lutra is able to make up a little bit more time this time around on lap 43. He's gaining a lot of pace right now. He looks for the inside. So much traction coming out of that car right now.
There's still wheel-to-wheel strip heading into turn 5. Lutra going a little bit off the track. They're still side by side. This is amazing to see. But Lutra, around the outside of turn 7 and 8, has gotten that move done on the AlphaTauri. Both cars going a little bit wide there at the exit of 9, but both able to keep it on the track, which is great to see.
We'll see if
So Lutra
Freeware
now into that podium place.
if Freeware is able to hold him up a little bit and try and fight back with him, because that would be music for Domi. But it appears that Lutra has been unleashed in that Red Bull.
Yeah, Freeware certainly wants to be able to stay with Red Bull if he wants to have any chance of getting on the podium this evening. Of course, both will have DRS. Another driver that will have DRS very, very soon, at least, is Samus. He's now 4 tenths behind Crampy down in the fight for P9. That's just another battle to keep your eyes on. Those two drivers, the last 2 drivers on the lead lap currently as well. As Alex, actually no, I say that, Alex Biddo has actually lapped both of them. So now only the top 8 are on the lead lap.
Samus has made it ahead of Crampy. And I was looking at the interval, but I didn't expect Samus to make it up so quick. Crampy now on the older rubber has lost out from the Red Bull.
Yeah, as with these 3 fighting for 2nd place, the gap's just sort of hovering around that 4 to 6 tenth mark. I want to get more excited for these kinds of gaps, but just the nature of the circuit just makes overtaking so difficult. Just to get that run that you need out of the final corner. But we'll see what Lutra is able to do. Domi using all the track and then some to try and stay ahead. He gets a pretty good exit out of the final corner. It's a lot of ground to make up for these two behind him. Especially with the low battery reserve that is currently in that Red Bull car. You see, Lutra is able to close up, but just isn't quite able to close up enough to make a move on the AlphaTauri. The Hungarian holding station for now.
Looking down the grid here at all the difference in tire life, it's just wild the numbers we're seeing on this timing tire. It's not something you'd normally see. Of course, there's been a lot of offs and things like this causing some wing damage, some extra tire wear, pushing these drivers into situations that they would rather not be in. I'm sure, of course, Freeware in a solid position, holding station within a second of Lutra, but Lutra doing very well to keep within that half-second range of Freeware's teammate Domi ahead, as he's between that AlphaTauri sandwich at the moment, running in these battles for podium position.
It's just sort of just chilling there in the middle. Not really too worried about the two cars either side. Looks like he's dropped off Freeware a little bit. Can he get a better exit? He's gotten a better run through the final corner. This could be it, Striff. This could be the chance that Lutra has been waiting for. DRS open, overtake mode on for a little bit. He's going to try to use that DRS as much as he can, but Domi just has enough power in that car to just stay ahead for yet another lap, as Yoda will now break the fastest lap of the race so far with a 1:17.
Very fast time, that 1:17.483 from the Mercedes. Of course, we saw Yoda and Zamis have a couple of issues earlier in this race, both of them spinning out of some solid running positions. Now Zamis and Yoda on that back foot. However, Zamis coming off a little worse in 9th position at the moment. Yoda doing solid in 5th. It's good to see Zamis, though, moving up through this field. You see there, he's on the 3-lap-old medium compound tires and pushing through this field and making up time, as is Gadwin on those softs, and we'll jump in with him in just a second as we look to see if Lutra's going to be able to make a move here on Domi. And it's been a couple laps now that he's been quite close within that half-second range, and I think the place to pull that trigger is going to be down into turn 1, but that exit out of the chicane is so crucial here.
Yeah, it's the run that you need to really just make that move stick down the main straight. Lutra quite close again, but I don't know if he's going to have the battery he needs. Domi whacking his engine up into overtake mode. And you just see that he isn't able to get close enough. He needs to be closer out of that final corner, which is easier said than done. He's already starting out that move very, very close to the rear wing of that AlphaTauri in second. Just isn't able to get the overspeed he needs to really make a move.
Now Gadwin has made it ahead of Cotters into 11th position. We're staying and holding station with this Red Bull right now as things are so tense for these podium positions. But yes, Gadwin confirmed into 11th position in the Alfa Romeo. He's on those very... Well, he's on the 9-lap-old worn softs, but of course those softs, I don't believe we're going to see them make it to the end.
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, considering how these drivers were going after 10 laps on those softs, trying to do 30 on them would be quite the task.
Lutra now 3/10 to Domi. Domi is defending very well, and Lutra's losing out here on some pace, I think, as a result of that in these quicker mediums at the moment.
Lutra just needs to whittle down that battery of the AlphaTauri in front of him. Just try and save that battery and then use it all in like one attempt. After that, maybe like Domi makes a slight mistake, or once Domi runs out of his deployment and Lutra starts seeing that red flashing light from the pressure. I think that's what Lutra needs to do. Has to play it tactically.
Problem is, Lutra doesn't have the opportunity to just sit there and be patient, because he has this AlphaTauri teammate of Domi in Freeware breathing down his neck. And if Lutra makes one mistake or he pulls off the pressure at any moment, Freeware is going to be picking up the pieces. And Lutra's going to have to get into that position all over again, and that's going to put some excessive wear on his tires. But now Lutra, with DRS, you see Freeware doing a good job to maintain the DRS behind him. So as long as this train is going, Luketra's going to be under this pressure where he can't do much, and Freeware is able to generate battery as a result of it. Domi, not as much, because yeah, he is under serious threat. But now Yoda is making up a little bit of time. He's holding around 9 seconds right now. We'll see if he's able to bring that down. But Zamus now, on these fresher medium compound tires, this could be a solid strategy option from him to the end now. As he's got 6 laps on them, he could technically go to the end. Seb, who we have seen defend so well here in this race, who is on a great strat to the end on these hards, is under threat now in the Williams finally.
That light is now flashing for that AlphaTauri drift. Domi is now below that 10% mark on his battery. So now Lutra knows that he can get within striking distance. Just save up the battery just a little bit more if he can. Stay within that, 4/3/10 gap through that final chicane, and then I think he'll have a solid chance to get past this AlphaTauri.
Zamus right now in a fight between Seb. I think there was a little bit of contact, very light contact between the Red Bull and Williams right now, as this is the closest gap on the grid. Of course, a fight for 8th, not as good as a fight for the podium, but Luketra hasn't had that opportunity to pull the trigger just yet. But it is coming up, as they're actually behind Zamus at the moment. Zamus not within striking distance of Seb, but Luketra very well might be for Domi.
Yeah, he just didn't get the run he needed. He was about 6/10 behind coming out of that final chicane, so he won't be close enough on this occasion. But Domi is using a lot of resources to try and stay in front. We're now on lap 50 of this race. So 16 or 17 laps to go if you include this one. And Gadwin into the pits now to get off those softs.
Could it be we see him on another set of softs, Mikhail? I think it could be possible at this point. Or do you think he'll jump onto some mediums?
Well, we'll see. It's going to be the mediums. I do believe those are the mediums that he started the race on, potentially. A few laps away, but it shouldn't affect them too much.
Zamus struggling coming out of that hanging right there on that exit curving, picking up a little bit of rock on his left-hand side. Now Seb sticking very well in 8th position.
Going defensive. Sorry to cut you off there, Strift. Domi has to go defensive into turn 10. Had a little bit of a mistake through turn 9. Lutra's going to go up the inside of turn 11 into turn 12 now. And Lutra has made the move through probably the least common overtaking spot on the entire circuit up through turns 11 and 12. But he's got the move done. And now he has to go full attack mode to try and break this slipstream.
I think Lutra's been hanging around Liam too long. We saw Liam last race, and now it's Freeware.
Domi,
excuse me. Wheel to wheel in through turn 1 here. It's the Red Bull on the inside, the AlphaTauri now switching off to the inside. Lutra through into the left, or the right-hander, excuse me, of turn 3.
And he's made that move stick. It's taken him, what, nearly like 15, 16 laps?
It's taken him at least as long as he's been on those mediums he's on right now to get ahead of Domi, that for sure.
10.
So around 10.
8.
Well, 9 if we count the present lap. So 9 laps it's taken him to finally get a clean move through on Domi. And Freeware needs to catch back up to this DRS, and he has.
You can just see the amount of time that he lost. Alex Bitto now some 17.6 seconds ahead. Absolutely running away with this race. But with 15 laps to go. Alright, there's still time. Anything could happen.
Domi, I don't think he's going to have another shot at getting Luketra. This is it, I think, for him. Because he's on the much older mediums. But he's doing so well to maintain that battery, and I don't think Luketra... Well, they're on equal terms. They're on equal terms in the battery right now. Domi showing a lot of pace.
Yeah, you can just see the effects of Dirty Air and the slipstream basically through every single corner. Like, Domi falls back a little bit through some of the more technical sections, but then he catches right back up with the slipstream. And as you said before, they're both on pretty much equal equal footing
Wheel to
on the
wheel,
battle
that's
front.
Zamis and Seb. Mikhail, sorry to interrupt. They're on that DRS straight in Sector 2. It's Zamis on the outside. That is Seb on the inside through there, and it looks like Zamis has made the move finally ahead of the Williams into 8th position.
Yeah, great job from the Red Bull driver and founder of the Misfits, Mr. Zamis. Trying to recover after the, frankly, awful first half of the race that he experienced. So he's doing well to have that car in 8th place at the moment.
Domi just about to fall out of DRS range, just hanging on by a thread now is the AlphaTauri, and that's his teammate behind him half a second back. In this fight for these podium positions, of course, just because Luktra's ahead doesn't mean that it's over for him. Alex Bitto has a little bit of breathing space should he make a mistake. Luktra, on the other hand, not in a position where he can make any kind of mistakes, as either of these AlphaTauri racers behind him could pick up the pieces. Yoda, 7.1 seconds back, and he is slowly gaining on what's happening here. We saw him just a few laps back at that 9-second mark, so things slowly starting to tick down.
He's catching, but I don't know if he's catching enough to really make his presence felt at the end of the race. If he keeps his pace up and the 3 in front of him continue to fight as they are, it's certainly a possibility that we might see Yoda into the mix as well in the last few laps or so.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. We'll take a look at the stops. Of course, there's been a multitude of them in this race. The fastest lap right now, Yoda, that 117.483 still stands. Of course, stops down the grid. Everybody has had 2 to 3 stops, with the exception of Adam in 13th in the Williams. He is on that 1 stop right now. On some quite old hard compound tires. He could be looking to go to the end.
Crampy there pulling over for Lutra. As 2 AlphaTauris are now getting quite close as well. Now Freeway has been able to claw back the gap to within 2 seconds. And Domi has fallen out of DRS range, but Freeway are getting a little bit trigger happy there on the apex at turn 2. Unsettling the car just a little bit. So we'll see what he's able to do on his teammate.
Oh, and who is that? That is the back marker of, I believe, Crampy? Yes, and it was pulling off to the outside there.
Now Yoda hasn't really gained that much this past lap, but he has gained a little bit, I think about 4/10.
I'd say 4/10 is accurate to where we checked in with him last for sure.
So it is a considerate amount of time, but is it enough? I don't think so. But other than this fight for P3 at the moment, there isn't really too much else happening on the track.
We're definitely at that lull period once again here just before the finale of this race when tire wear kind of goes off a cliff. We've seen it happen before. Free wear, of course, half a second still on his teammate. Looks like they're just training each other around at the moment. Of course, it gives you that idea that there's going to be some overtaking. They could be having team orders, but considering how Freeware lunged into that turn on his teammate, I don't think we're going to be seeing any of that from this squad.
No, most certainly not. Certainly not teammates in the MRL capacity. No, for our races on Thursdays, so I don't think there's going to be any sort of team orders on that front, but you never know. They are on the same team for this race, as they now have caught back to the back of this Williams and set the champ, holding up Domi a little bit, it would seem.
That's going to be big for him. Freeware.
So Domi losing about 0.8 to Lutra through that.
Freeware gaining quite a few. So that's good for him if he's in that position to take it from his teammate. Of course, one thing, August 25th, everybody, we are going to be having round 1 of our EU MRL grid. It's going to be taking place around here in the Spain circuit, the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, of course. That begins August 25th. The time will be released this week. More information about that on our Twitter. Of course, every Thursday we do the racing action for Tier 2 and Tier 1 of MRL, starting at 3:15 p.m. CDT / 9:15 p.m. British summertime. That is the Tier 2 grid. And then 2 hours following that start time, we have the Tier 1 racers. And this week is, of course, a circuit that we haven't had an opportunity to see a lot of league racing on. That is, of course, the Dutch Grand Prix. We're going to Zandvoort. So that's this Thursday. Of course, if you're enjoying the racing content, keep it perked here. Hit that follow button as we do this every week. Of course, every Saturday that you have a Formula One race in the real world, we try to copy that with a race of our own here on the Saturday ahead of the race. And then Thursdays with all of that action. And then soon, like I said, that EU grid on Tuesday. So a lot of racing action happening here. So if you're a fan of Formula One, the recommendation would most definitely be to tune in to some racing action on those days. Now it's still freeware within that DRS of Domi, but somebody else who has now drawn himself into DRS range is Crampy, as he is now within a second of Seb. And you see there a big differential in tires. You have Seb on the 19 lap old hards now, with Crampy on the 15 lap old hards. Could be a little bit of difference in pace there that could make a position come through for Crampy, as he's currently at that 10th position on the grid, that final points position. So
He certainly wants to double that tally, that's for sure. Yeah, trying to use those tires to full effect is the Renault driver. Both still a lap down. Alex Bitto just running away from this race. I think he almost has the gap to even pit now for fresh softs if he wanted to, and still come out in the lead of this race trying to get that extra point for fastest lap. Of course, this endurance series a little bit less serious than the races that you'll find on Tuesday and Thursday. But still, these drivers are very, very competitive, and every point does count. They will be tallied at the end of the year with the conclusion of the F1 season. So they will have bragging rights.
they will have bragging
that's all
rights.
tallied up. So no,
That's
it
the
could be
most
something to
important thing.
consider.
The bragging rights, of course. Freeware, he's just not able to pull the trigger on Domi at the moment. He's on the 2-lap fresher tires at the moment, and it's usually near the end of the race when that tire life does come into play a little more.
Yeah, we've just got I think it's 9 laps left in this race, if my maths is correct. So he is running out of time. Those tires should be good for another few laps at least, but the laps are slowly ticking away for Freeware to make this pass for the final podium place.
Yeah, and it's going to be a tough defense for the Williams of Seb, of course, running in 9th right now. He has that Renault of Crampy half a second at his back. And, well, like you said, 9 laps to go, counting our present lap. So we'll see if Seb can hold it. It's a long way to go still, given he's on those 20-lap-old hards.
Alex Bitto into the pits. He might have heard what I said. He's putting on a fresh set of softs. Now, where is Lutra? Lutra is going through the final chicane as we speak. Now just exiting through the final corner. So Alex Bitto might just be behind the Red
He's going to
Bull.
come out. He's going to come out behind this Red Bull, I think. Down into
It's gonna
turn
be
1.
close.
Is he
No,
going to
it
have the
looks like he's
traction?
gotten ahead.
Yeah, but the
He's
traction.
gotten ahead.
Oh my, as if, and this is what we wanted to see now. Things have now just been kicked up a notch, as Freeware and Domi have had an exchange of positions as we were focusing on Lutra versus Alex Bitto. As these two
Freeware,
continue
he's
to
gonna
tango.
overtake. Round the outside of turn 4. Keep it clean, guys. We know what happened last time. 2 teammates went side by side into turn 4. But looks like they've gotten away cleanly. But Domi is still the lead AlphaTauri at the moment.
If Domi had been able to keep up with Lutra right now, these drivers would be in a serious fight with Alex Bitto. Of course, Alex Bitto on those soft compound tires is in proper position now to fly away, as he's already pulled out near a second to Lutra behind him. So Alex Bitto on the 3-stop.
Alex Bitto just showing incredible pace around this circuit. It's unbelievable. Really carrying that Scarlet Red Ferrari to the top step. I'm sure what you'd say is where it rightfully deserves to be. Of course, a team with a great history in the sport. some of it more controversial than others, but we won't go into that on this broadcast. Maybe in another one.
Maybe we'll do a podcast or something like that. Something
Yeah, we
to
should
talk
do a
about that.
podcast.
Hey, you heard it
Stay
here
tuned
first.
for MRL podcast.
You heard it here first. It's coming. Confirmed. Freeware and Domi have just been doing this tango this entire race, it would seem now, as things are dialing down to the wire. 7 laps to go, counting our present lap. This fight for third very much alive, as is the fight for that 10th position. Seb still holding station against Crampy, and I'm sure Crampy getting impatient in that Renault on these quicker tires at the moment. Those mediums holding a little more pace than the hards, but the hards going longer, so could be that they're equalized in pace at the moment, but it's a great battle to see regardless. Meanwhile, Zamis in the past 2 laps has made up a 2.5 almost on Ruben Mock in 7th position. So it could be that the Red Bull moving back through into the points.
Yeah, he could have another few points on the table available to him, as Alex Bitter will come across the line to set a new fastest lap, obviously on those fresh soft compound tires. I think that was the 1:16, if I'm not mistaken.
Freeware looking at Domi right now into turn 1. Is he going to go for it? He's pretty late on the brakes. It was very tight between the two of them. He wasn't utilizing any of that overtake down into turn 1, and had he been doing so, maybe we could have seen some wheel-to-wheel action coming out of turn 2, but Domi maintaining third for now. Of course, you can see that yellow T-cam above that Honda-powered unit. He is, technically speaking, driver 2 at the moment, but we're not seeing any team dynamics come into play.
Another driver who made a pass was Crampy. He's now made his way finally past Seb into P9. So, probably a sigh of relief coming from that cockpit.
Seb having a very good drive so far.
Freeware very, very close to his teammate heading into turn 10. Domi has to go defensive once again. We've seen this before. He locks up. Freeware going for the switchback on his teammate and will get the move done. So that is the second time that Domi has fallen a victim to that move.
I have to say, Freeware very good at dummying that car, controlling that car very well through those turns, allowing Domi to make the mistake. You saw him there drop the throttle, switch back the steering, and just fire it up through. And that is just a fantastic move from Freeware. Now into third position. He was just biding his time. Now you have Domi coming back, though.
How long is it going to be?
Well, it's not looking like it's going to be very long. Wheel to wheel on the outside is Domi. How's Freeware going to hold it?
Yeah, he's not. He's not going to be able to hold it. He might try for a switchback heading into turn 4, but Domi has just played that absolutely perfectly. Getting that DRS after that slight mistake. We thought it was all over, but just the sheer straight line speed in that car just isn't enough for Freeware to hold that position. Now Freeware is back now, stuck behind his teammate.
Well, I think we're going to see these two lock it up through until the end of this race here. None of them wants to give each other the inch, and they both want that podium desperately at this point in this race, as Luktra has already pulled out 4.5 seconds on Domi, and there's a big lunge from Freeware around the outside, down at the end of the DRS straight. How's it going to go this time? This is where we saw Freeware make the move last time round, and it looks like he's going to do it again, Mikau, in a zone, in a sector of this circuit where you don't see that every day.
He tried the inside, it didn't work. He tried the outside. Will that be enough? Looks like Domi is going to get... Oh, and actually, no, Domi has a slip of the rear there on the exit. But just look at the straight line speed in that AlphaTauri. It is absolutely incredible. Domi now taking the inside line, heading into turn 1. Freeware again being forced to the outside, and a little bit of contact. Freeware gets forced off the track a little bit. They both seem to survive.
And guess who's here, Mikal? That's right, it is the Mercedes of Yoda. He is in 5th position, and these guys are not going to be happy about that. This fighting has cost them big, as Yoda, who has been climbing down this grid, he has Domi. He cut it to the inside in the turn. Domi's had it off, and Yoda isn't screwing around here, Mikal, as he has his eyes set on P3.
Where the hell has Yoda come from? Just saw that fighting between the two AlphaTauris. Wasn't even paying attention to the gap on the timing tower between, you know, the AlphaTauris and Yoda, and I'm sure they weren't either. That certainly caught me by surprise. But Yoda is now firmly in this fight with 3 laps to go. It's anyone's game at this rate.
I have to say, Mikhail, I think he caught Domi out by surprise as well there as they were fighting, and Yoda just kind of snuck through there on that inside. Domi turning in, trying to use that optimal line, but Yoda was already into the turn, and it was looking like it could have been a safe dive, but I just don't think Domi saw him there. And now Domi is lost out huge as Yoda is on these fresh medium tires, at least fresher than the drivers he's splitting right now. That's Domi on 26 lap old mediums, Freeware on the 24, and Yoda right in between on these 23. So he's got a lot of pace in that Mercedes, and we saw it at the beginning of this race. He was doing very well before his mishap and he spun, but he has now climbed back through with a vengeance.
I think this is scenario 7 times, Striff. I think this is scenario 7 in full motion for this Mercedes.
And it's as we said through this race, Mikhail, gaps are starting to form, or, well, come down, if you will. Yoda within half a second of Freeware, Domi right behind them within the DRS still, and now Zamis is within a second of Ruben in 7th position. So we could see a multitude of overtakes here on the penultimate lap or the final lap of this race. But I think the first one we're going to see out of all of this action is most definitely going to be Yoda. Of course, we saw him win China last Thursday. Well, this past Thursday for round 4 of MRL. Now it's his turn to try and come home with a podium here in Spain, and Freeware right now is the only obstacle in his way, and that DRS straight is going to do wonders for this Mercedes.
Well, let's see if he has the same sort of straight line speed that his teammate does. Opting not to use that overtake mode just yet, as we're on the penultimate lap of this race. Looks like he's broken the DRS to Domi just about, hovering around that 1 second, but isn't able to get past Freeware just yet. Meanwhile, Zamis, just ahead of them on circuit, very, very close to Ruben as well. And even further down the grid, Seb the Champ on his teammate Atom, getting very close on those fresh soft compound tires after he had a spin a couple laps ago.
Carry of speed on these softs right now is going to be massive compared to his teammate. You see the gap just shrinking massively. 33 laps on the hards versus those fresh softs. I mean, it was a big gamble from Seb. Maybe he'll get himself back into the points, but I don't think he was going to be able to finish the race without a puncture. Now we have Yoda still on Freeware here. They're coming through into this Sector 3 section now. And this is what we want to see. We want to see an overtake between these two coming down into turn 1. We're going to look real quick at Seb. He's definitely going to get his teammate here. Look at the speed differential between these softs and hards right now. He gets that move around to the outside, and he's already ahead down into turn 1. Back over to Yoda in that Mercedes. He's got that.
Closer.
Oh, it's huge. He's half a second within that Honda-powered AlphaTauri in third. He looks like he's a sitting duck, Freeware, as Yoda goes to the outside. Freeware planting it in the center of the circuit, making Yoda pick a direction. Yoda into turn 1 with the move into the podium positions.
This is the final lap of the race as well. This is the last lap.
Do or die for Freeware.
Freeware has one opportunity left, I feel. As Alex Bitto running away with this race after stopping again, as Zamis has also made the move on Ruben into turn 4. Sorry, turn 5 that is. And wow. So position changes happening all over the circuit. There's also now still that fight between the two Williams, as they've now both been lapped by Alex Bitto again, it would seem.
I don't think Ruben's done with Zamis fighting here.
Doesn't look like it. He's trying to hold on, but I think he's run out of time as Alex Bitto making his way through the final chicane. He's had an absolutely dominant performance around his home track, but that is it. Alex Bitto will come across the line to win the MRL endurance race around Spain. Lutra will come across the line in third, but what will it be for the final podium place? It just isn't enough. As all these drivers now coming across the line, it will be Yoda having that final spot on the podium. Freeware in 4th. Domi will come across the line in 5th. BTFU will hold on to that 6th place as the last driver on the lead lap. And that end of the race got interesting very, very quickly.
That race was just, it was so up and down. We had those lulls, and then we just kept getting these jolts of adrenaline from these racers going for these overtakes. You see them going through into turn 1, a couple of very late dives, couple of dramatic collisions between a few of these racers. BTFU now coming through that final chicane to finish out this race, as is Gadwin and Cotters. finishing the race as well. Gadwin takes 10th position, as Cotter's now behind BTFU, will be the last driver to cross the line here. And what a race it was. Yoda had so much pace today. He had that unfortunate issue, but he still managed to crawl back through this grid into a podium position. Fantastic driving from him. Definitely caught both of the AlphaTauris off guard, if I do say so from where I'm sitting. I think it definitely caught Domi, because he turned in a little bit with Yoda there.
But what a drive from Alex.
It was.
That was masterclass. I mean, pulling enough of a gap to pit for fresh softs at the end and still come out in the lead, that is utter domination from the Spaniard. Winning his home race, I'm sure he's very, very happy with that. But yeah, that was a very, very up and down race, if I do say so myself.
Huge dynamic race. Strategy playing a massive role. Pit stops playing a massive role. We even did have a safety car in this race. You just might not remember it because it was very early on. Of course, Alex Bitto with the race win. The Spaniard taking home the win for his home Grand Prix. Of course, tomorrow is the Spanish GP. Luchtra in second, Yoda in third after a very, very hard-fought race from him, as was Freeware doing some serious battling between his teammate Domi in fifth, BTFU in sixth, Zamis in seventh, Ruben in eighth. Crampy comes home in ninth, with Gadwin rounding off your top 10. And what a dynamic race it was for the Finn. Once again, he started in 12th, 4 stops for him, and still managed to come home with a point. Cotters in 11th, Adam 12th, Seb in 13th, Alpha in 14th position, with Moen in 15 here. And we had a multitude of DNFs, as we had John, Liam, Inulator, Henners, and Fubar all retiring out of this one.
That was a crazy race. Maybe not as action-packed as the one that we witnessed last week in Sao Paulo, Brazil, but it certainly had its moments, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, and we didn't really have that many penalties or warnings to see here either in the race director, which is always a nice sight. Of course, we did have a couple of, I'm going to say, disagreements on circuit that will be looked into by stewards. Of course, this isn't an official MRL event. However, the stewards are watching, because a lot of these racers, we look to, of course, make sure that everybody is keeping their racecraft at the highest level possible. But yes, what a fantastic race it was for the MRL Round 6 Endurance Series. That was the Spanish Grand Prix. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the racing action, and if you did, make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing for more great racing. Of course, you can check us out on Twitch. Every Thursday we have racing then, and we're going to have a lot more coming to you soon. Twitter, where you can find all of our updates, and Discord if you're interested in becoming a part of the Misfits community. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time.